Danielle from John Bead, and I'm here on behalf of Michaels. We're going to be teaching you guys a really cool design. I'm going to wait a few minutes for everybody to join before I get started. But the class is recorded, and it will be available on michaels.com/classes after the broadcast. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat room. We do have everybody on mute just so we can hear each other. And if you have questions, that they'll ask me during the class if we can. And if you have any questions we can't answer, we'll try to get you guys after class. Let's see what else. I think that's pretty much all. Everybody's in. Okay. So today is the Peyote Stitch charm bracelet class. Sorry, it's a little hard to see there. But what we're going to be making is a chain with seed beads. And peyote, it's in a peyote stitch chain that goes straight down and back up. We'll go through it twice and then add charms at the end. And got another example to show here. And it's a really fun design. You can make multiple charms, or you can use it as a way to hold a pendant. And what I like about this design is that it is strong. The chain that we're going to create today can support the weight of a large gemstone or a crystal. And so I think that's really handy for designers to have a delicate look, but that's got some strength to it. And it's still a stitch project. All right, so it looks like we've got everyone here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to my camera to show you the details. There you go. Okay, so here's the sample I was just holding up. And it's just a single pendant, a little frog charm. And I got creative and added another little charm at the end. And so this project uses wire guardians to make this connection. Here's another example of a wire guardian connection with a lobster claw. And here's showing a version with the 3 charms. And this is the one that we'll try to do a version of today. The necklace version takes about 40 minutes to make. So we're going to do a bracelet length today so I can get through. I want to be able to show everybody twice how to start and finish it. So, but what I do have handy is one more version that's a necklace length. It's just like the 3 charms, so you guys can see how that one's finished. Okay, so on that, I'm going to get started using the wildfire thread, 0.006. And I'm cutting about 50 inches. Now that's a lot for, you know, the projects that I usually do. But because we're going to go back and forth through the necklace, if you're doing a necklace, like for a bracelet, you can cut less. But for a necklace, you'll want to do about 50 inches. So for me, I'm going to go a little shorter. So I'm going to show you guys the needle threading trick that works really nicely is if you have some chain nose or flat nose pliers handy, get those out and take the end of your thread and just go ahead and flatten it without pulling on it. Just give it a flat, and then it'll really noticeably flatten, and it'll make it very easy to thread your needle. And so I'm using a size 10 beading needle. I've got a couple here. Threaded. Fold over about 7 inches or so. And now you're going to want to leave about a 10-inch tail. Pick up a stop bead. To make a stop bead, what you'll want to do is grab one seed bead, slide it down until it's about 10 inches from the bottom. If you're using one of the bead mats, it's about the length of the height of your bead mat would be perfect. And come back through the bead, pull tight. There you go. So there's a stop bead. And it'll move if you try to pull on it, but it will hold our stitches in place for now. And so I'm using, I'm going to find the tubes and show you the colors. This one is called Sapphire. It's a size 6 seed bead mix that has a bunch of different sapphire blues in it. Really, really pretty. The black beads I'm using are size 11. And they are just a nice opaque with kind of a little bit of a luster finish to them. It's really nice. And in the beginning, you won't see them. These are added in, step 4, but they are delicas, Miyuki delicas. And I'll be adding those in step 4. But they're kind of a neat addition. They add a lot of texture to the chain. And let's see, in addition to that, that's all the beads. So I'll go ahead and start with the first step after the stop bead, which is to add one of the 6/0 beads. Get 1 6/0 bead on there. And so now there's a pattern, and we're going to follow this pattern to the desired length of your bracelet, but it's to string 3 size 11s. And then you'll want to string a variation of 6 11, 6 11, and 6. And so that's one repeat. 3 11s, then a 6 and 11, a 6 and 11, and 6. And you'll do that as many times as you'd like for half of your length. So on my necklaces, it was 33 times to get this length. So you'll have to decide how long you'd like it to be. And then there's a little way to help out here is to take a look at the length of, I'll show you the tape measure really quick. Each one of these repeats is going to give you a little over 1.5 inches of length. So for my bracelet, I only have to string this about 7 times or so. So there's one repeat. I'm going to pick up 3 more 11s, 1 6, 1 11, a 6, and 11, and a 6. So there's 2 repeats. Okay, 3 11s, 6 11, 6 11, 6. And as we get going, you guys will see there's a lot of really fun variations you can do. This count is completely arbitrary. It was just one that I thought looked cute. You can create your own repeat with your own counts. And what looks cool to you, this technique will work with different iterations. You can try out stuff and just see. I get new ideas every time I do this stitch, so I bet you guys will too. So there's one more. And if you ever lose count, especially on the really long ones, which happens to me a couple times with those necklaces, the easy way to recount it is just come back and count each of your sets of 3. So 1, 2, 3. I'm up to number 5. So I need to do 2 more for a bracelet length. Oops, sorry. Okay, there's that. Another cool thing to note about this is you can test the length and it's not going to shrink with the stitch we do on the way back. A lot of bead weaving, it's hard to tell, but with this one, the length will stay the same. So you can just wrap it around your wrist or hang it over your neck and see if it's long enough yet or if it's too long. So in my case, I'm gonna want to add a little bit more. So that's about my midpoint, right? Yeah, so for me, that's half of my bracelet right there. I'm going to stop here so I can show you guys the rest. But if I was making a full length bracelet, I would keep going another 7 times or so. So we've just added, in my case, 7 repeats. And so the last step is to pick up 3 more 11s. And then you'll need 1 of the size 6s. String that. And now we're going to bring the delicas in. Okay, so after the 6, you'll pick up one more of those 11s and then pick up a size 11 delicate. And if you're not using delicates, that's totally fine. If you want to bring a contrasting color in as another 11, it will still work. Okay, coming down here. And at this point, you'll want a wire guardian. So go through your wire guardian. And come around. Let's see if I can pick this up. There we go. Something I do with wire guardians is I pinch them between my forefinger and thumb while I'm pulling the thread through, and it keeps the thread in the well of the wire guardian. So a handy trick especially when you're working with really long thread. And so I just picked up another delicate and another size 11. And I'm going to go back through the size 6 bead. And I'm just coming out through the 6. Okay, and when you pull tight, what'll happen is the 11s and the delicates will sit side by side with the wire guardian on top. And I just thought that looked kind of cool. And so the next thing you're going to want to do is pick up an 11 and then a delicate and an 11. And we're going to start building them into these little spaces here. So these are going to sit, each of these additions is going to sit next to the 3 11s. But I want to reinforce this before I go all that length back. So imagine if you were doing a really long necklace, you wouldn't want to have to stitch all the way back up or add thread or tie in or tie off to be able to reinforce your guardian. So a cool way to just get it done now is to go back through these 11s here. So I'm going to go through in the other direction. So heading in the direction of my wire guardian, going back through all 3 of those 11s, and then pull tight. Oops, sorry, moved a little bit. And what you'll see happen is the new addition of the 11 delicate 11 should sit right next to those 3. And you'll see that my space is moving here. If that happens to you, don't worry about it. You can tighten up the stop bead at the other side, and it should be fine. And one reason that we start with a stop bead is when you get a really long chain going, what you'll get is a bunch of kinks and bunches as you're stitching. And when you get to the end of your necklace or bracelet, you can loosen or tighten here at the end of the stop bead to make it flowy and smooth so that it lays just like it's one piece, not something that you stitch through twice. So I'll show you guys more about that when we get back to that side. But so I've just gone through this 6 and the 11, the delicate and the wire guardian on one side. I need to come back down, so I'm going back down through on the other side. And for now, I'm just going to exit from the 6. So I'm gonna have to line it up a little bit. And then again, I'm pinching the well of the wire guardian so that the thread stays in the well. Okay, so now I've exited from the 6. I'm going to go back through the 11 delicate 11 combo that I added. There we go. So tiny. Okay, there we go. All right, and if you wanted to, you could loop through that again. I'm going to keep going. I found that that's actually strong enough. Another thing you could do if you wanted to reinforce it but not go through those same beads again is repeat what we did up here with this section. And on a longer necklace that's going to have weight, I would recommend doing that. But what I did here is I just picked up the 11 and the delicate 11 and the 11, going through all 3 of these beads. So the 3 6s with those 11s in between, and exiting from that last 6. Pull down this way. Now in the instructions, it gives instructions to keep going. If you were building the full length necklace, you'd go through this process 13 times. And that would give you a stopping point that puts 3 of these charms at the bottom of the chain. So you would build the repeat 13 times before adding the charm loop. And on this one, that number was 15, just to add a single charm. Okay. On my bracelet, I'm probably going to only do one more of these and then I'll be ready to show that step. But I'm going to show this one more time. So this is the 11, delicate 11. And go down through the 6, exiting from the 6 here. Okay. So let's say I'm ready to add the charm. The charm loop is made by picking up an 11, delicate, and then you're going to want to add 8 11s. I've only got 7 on the mat here, so I'm going to pick up a little more. One more. Okay. And a delicate, 11. So that's a combo of 11 delicate, 8 11s, delicate, and an 11. Now what you want to do is skip your next group of 3 11s, 3 6s, and 3 11s, and go through the next set of 3 6s. So I skipped these sections here. And so there's a charm loop. And if you're making the necklace version, you would do that 3 times. So on this version here, I'll show you this for a second. Did this one, then you would go through those 3 like we did, come out, add another one, go through 3 6s, go through 3 6s. So did that here. And it's up to you. If you'd like, you could add the charm now. I usually add it at the end. I just open a jump ring and put it on that loop. But if you had a charm, for example, that didn't have a jump ring, you'd want to add it before going through the 6s. Okay. And so if you'd like to reinforce this loop, which I recommend doing that, I'm going to show you how to reinforce that. So pick up your next, combo of 3 11s there, and do what we did before and make a turn. So normally I would go through these 3 6s. That would be my next step. But I'm going to turn and go back through these 3. And I'm going to just continue all the way back. I'm exiting the 6 for now. But my plan is to go ahead and continue all the way through this loop over here. So move these beads out of the way. There we go. All right, so exiting from the 6 here. I'm going to go through all of these. And now I'm continuing through 3 6s with the 11s in between them. Going through all of those. And I'm going to make that turn again. And to make that turn, I'm going to use these sets. And it doesn't matter which one you come up through first. Just choose a side. Go through. Sorry about that. I'm going to turn it so it's easier for me to see. There we go. All right, up through one side, and then turn and go back through the side. Okay, and so now I'm going to go through all the 6s. And you can either go through a charm loop or through this one. I'm going to hang my charm on that, so I'm going to go through that one more time. Okay. And so you can see as you do that, it kind of scrunches up a lot. That's why having this movable end is handy, because then I can make it be completely flat. And it gives you the ability to straighten it out as you're working. So you get this nice flowy chain. Okay, and so I had done a turn here. So my goal is to come back through these 6s, go through this set, and then continue on. So I'm exiting from a 6 here, turn, go through this tiny little 11. There we go. And through these 3. So I've gone through the rest of the combo here that I had, and then through that set that I just added. Hold tight. And keep going through the next 3 6s that are here. All right. And then I'm going to pick up one more of those combos where there's an 11, a delicate, and an 11. Go through those next 3. All right. So that's the last set that I had that's before adding the class. So now we're going to get to that part. So I'm going to pick up one more combo of 11, delicate 11. Go through the size 6 bead. And now I'm going to remove the stop bead. Remember when we started, we had a stop bead at that end. So I'm going to pull that off. And this is one more opportunity to kind of get the tighten it, but not too tight such that it would cinch up. But that looks about right to me. There we go. Okay, so the next step, I'm going to need a few more delicos. And I'm going to need a wire guardian. So I'll pick up an 11 and a delica, go through my wire guardian, coming down, and then another delica and an 11. Go through that size 6 bead. Oops. Guess what I forgot to do, guys? I forgot to go through the wire guardian. All right, fixing that. So I'm going back through the 6 here. And I'm going to remove the 11 and the delica. And see what I forgot to do is I didn't go through that side of the wire guardian first. Okay. Again, I'm pinching it to keep the thread in the well. And then keep pulling so it'll tighten up at the top here. There we go. And then there's those beads again. The 11 and the delicate. And now go through the 6. And just like before, it should, oh, look what I did. I put them like a checkerboard. I kind of like it though. I'm going to leave it. I was supposed to put the delicate first and then the 11 when I came down through the 6. Okay. So to reinforce that, you want to make that same turn that we did before, where you use this segment with the 2 side-by-side stacks to make a turn. So let me come down through whichever side. It doesn't matter which one. See through those 3. Oops. It's still pretty loose, and I've got my tail in the way, so that's okay. I'm going to thread a needle onto my tail because my original chain just pulled out. So I'm going back through the 6 here. And I went through those beads. I'm going to reinforce the wire guardian with both of these strands. So it's an easy way to use the tail to get a 3rd pass through it. Okay, that one. Bring that up. Okay. So this is my tail thread. I went around the wire guardian and through one of the sides here. And now I'm going to go through this other side. I took this one down through that side. I'm going to go through the other stack. So now both threads are exiting from the bottom there. I'm going to use this one to turn. And so on this side, you have the extra tail to work with. It doesn't matter which side you use to make this reinforcing connection. You can do the working thread or the tail thread, whichever you like. You'll have 10 inches to play with, so it's handy to have that. Okay, so I'm going through the wire guardian one last time, and then through those beads and through the 6. And all we have left to do now is just weave in our thread. There we go. That's what I usually do for weaving in. There's a couple options. You can tie half-inch knots in front of the 11s after you've woven and changed direction a few times. I don't actually tie the knots myself. I just go through and change direction 3 times with each of my strands. So I would go down to this one and turn, go down to this one and turn. And that usually is plenty of weaving in. But I'm also being careful not to make it tight. So as you're doing your weaving in and you're pulling, especially with those turns, do it gently. And as you're working, lay it flat and give it another just kind of adjustment. That way you won't get any kinks or little turns. So turning through here. And going back down. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim here at the bottom of this size 6 seed bead. If you wanted to, you could tie half-inch knots in front of the 11s and then go through the 6 and trim. That would be totally fine to do. I always find when I do that, my tension gets wonky, so I prefer to just weave in. But okay, so I have one more strand to weave in. Same thing. I don't want to use the same section, so I'm going to go all the way down to the center section here. Going through all those. And there we go. One of the beads is just a little tight. Give me 1 second. Ah, okay, got it. Okay. And if you get a tight bead, I always say don't force it, but then I go and do the opposite. But sometimes it can also help just to switch down to a size 12 needle. On these stitches where you have multiple passes through the same size 11s, occasionally you may want to use a 12 if you've got one. And if not, just give it a go. See, usually they'll pull through. Okay. So I got to the other side, and I'm going to go ahead and just trim here. Another tight one. And so I'm pushing down with the scissors and pulling up the thread. And so there's a really tiny bracelet done, but that's the whole stitch. That's all you got to do. One of the cooler things about using it as a pendant, like I did on this one, is these 3 size 6 seed beads will lay in front. They'll lay in front of the jump ring. I'm going to try to bring this down and show you guys. Here he is. Okay. So on this one that I made the other day, there's a jump ring behind there. It's what you're seeing is it's hanging on this strand. But when you're wearing it, what you see is the charm kind of suspended behind these really beautiful size 6s. So it almost looks like it's floating there. So that's one little cool way to picture it. I'm going to go ahead and get a charm. Just quickly throwing a charm on here to show you what I mean. Find a cute one in here. And most of these charms, they actually come with their own jump rings, which is really handy. I lost this one, so I'm grabbing one from my pack. I've been playing with all the new charms from the charm section, and there are some real cute ones. For jump rings, I always use flat nose and bent nose. Everybody's got their own style here. It's just what I like to do. But I like the flat nose because they hold the jump ring in place. Almost the entire side of it so that it holds its shape. And then I take the bent nose and just laterally open the jump ring here. And place it over that row or that loop and close it. Okay. So when you're wearing this, it will look like that. It's a really neat little style. And then up here, we just use the same process to attach jump rings and the clasp of your choice. And so we're doing really good on time. Go through that.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey, Carmi.
I want to let you know you are doing great on time, and we did have a couple people arrive late, so they're grateful you're going to demonstrate it a second time.
Awesome.
And I wanted to let you know everyone's loving how you're using the Guardians, the wire Guardians. So
awesome.
That's been a great, well-received tip tonight.
Yay, I'm glad. I like using them too. They're really fun. Wondering, should I do the same colors again, or was there any color that was problematic to see? Should I switch it out, or I was wondering about these mostly.
They're a little, you can see them.
You can see them? Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and just do the same colors again, since they're here. Why not? Let's see. So I'm using Wildfire Thread, and it's in the 0.06. And so I'm going to cut a shorter length for me, but at home, if you're making the necklace, 50 inches is a good length. And so I've cut the thread, and I'm going to go ahead and use chainless pliers to flatten one of the ends. So it'll be a little easier to get through a needle. Grab a needle here. And I'm bending down less than this, but bending down about 7 inches of thread is a good amount to do. And so for the first step, you're going to want to create a stop bead. And so to create a stop bead, you want to just pick up a size 11 bead. Bring it down to where you have a 10-inch tail. So use your mat, the height of your mat. It's close enough, it's a little more, but that's usually what I do. Come back through that same bead. Oops, my tail escaped. And remeasure that, there we go. And create a stop bead just by pulling, see how it's almost knotted in there. Just gonna kind of pull it down. Okay, and it's pretty tight, and it will hold our stitches in place, but has the benefit of being movable. So when you get to that point where you're wanting to straighten out the chain a little bit, really nice, you can slide that around. And so the first step would be to pick up one of the size 6 seed beads. Slide that down. And then we're going to start building repeats of 3 11s spaced by these little 6 11 6 11 6 combos. So that's one repeat, and if you're looking through the handout, it'll have you repeat that a certain number of times depending on what you're making. So for the full length necklace, that was about 33 times. And I was going to show you guys one more thing that I just remembered to talk about. Why the odd number? Well, if you want it to have a center, it'll need an odd number. So you'll need 33 or 31 or, 35. If you're making a bracelets, stick with the 7s and the 9s. If you start doing, other multiples, you'll get a thing where there's 2 off center, unless that's the design goal that you have of having it look like that. If you do an even number, that would be your center. So hopefully that helps somebody with your design choice. And so I'm picking up another repeat. There's that. And given that it's 336, I'm wondering, I could make a full length one. The last one I made wasn't a full length one. I was worried about time, so I shortened it. But given how well we're doing, I could just go ahead and try to make a full length bracelet. So I'm going to do that. That would mean for me probably between 12 and 14 repeats. So I'm going to go, let's see, 3 more here. I'll do that really fast. If anyone has any questions while I'm loading this, you can ask that. Oh, that one's, there you go. And in case anyone missed the beginning, the colors that I'm using, this is the Sapphire Mix in size 6. And this is just opaque black in 11. And this is a turquoise. This is the greener one. There's 2 different turquoises in the Delicas. I love them both. This one is the turquoise green. 2, 3. Okay. You'll find this goes really fast. And if you lose count, I'll just come back and count these sections. They're spaced by 3 smaller beads, so they're easy to count as you're, and easy to spot as you're looking at it. And let's see what else. Another thought about that is, so this iteration here, you can change that up if you want to. Then when you're building the back pass in the peyote chain, you would just match what you're doing here. So offset from each other. So for example, if you wanted to do 4 size 11s, then you just do 4 size 11s on the way back, something like that. Maybe with an 11, 2 delicas, an 11. So there's other ways you can personalize. Designs like this have no limitations. This iteration with the 3 size 6s, you could do 4 or 5, whatever looked good to you. So sitting and just kind of playing with what looks good to your eye would be fun. That's how I come up with these things. Okay, so there's 3 more here. I'm just making repeats of sets here. And we did a measure actually at the start of the last one, so I should do that again. A little more than ½ inch will be added by each section. So I'm at 8 right now. Add a few more. Oh, and another thing that's very awesome about this design is if you miscount your stand, because we just have a stop bead, you can pull that off and fix problems. So that's something that it can actually save you if you change your mind about where you want to charm position or you need an extra spot to make it even. You can even it up at the end. So I've got 9 on there. So I think not quite a bracelet, but 1 or 2 more and it will be. Okay, here's those. And another thing is it won't stretch, so you can always test it just to see if that fit. Yeah, I'm liking that. Okay, so there's a pretty good bracelet for me. I'm gonna make sure I've got an odd count because I want it to have a center charm. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 11, yeah. Good, okay, so for the last thing you wanna do after you've built the link that you want is we're gonna need to do the wire guardian, attaching that at the end and making it match this. So pick up 3 size 11s, another 6, bring that down. And then pick up 1 11 and 1 delicate bead. And then you'll need a wire guardian. So go through that. And then turn and go through the wire guardian one more time. Pinching it so that my thread stays in the well. There we go. And then I need a delicate and I need a size 11. And then go back through the 6. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to build my first peyote. In this design, we're actually treating these 3 beads as like an up bead, and we're stitching into each of the up beads with each repeat. What I would normally do is go this way, right? I would go down through these 3, and these guys would sit in between. So that's an 11, a delicate, and 11. But because I want a chance to reinforce this wire guardian before having to go all the way through the chain and all the way back, is I'm going to turn and go through those 3 in the other direction so I can get another pass through here. So I'm going back up through those first 3. There's that, and through the 6. And if I can, I'm going to try to just go all the way through. And I was able to do that. If it's too tight and you need to come out from one bead and go back through, that works too. Going around the wire guardian, through the delicate and the 11 and the 6, if it will let me. Yep, got that. There we go. Okay, so now I'm exiting from the 6. I've reinforced that 2 times. I'm going to go ahead and continue through that segment I just added. You could go through these 3 too, but one of the reasons I like to go through the one that we used here to loop is it's still sitting to kind of to the side. If you go through it and bring it through these 6s, it'll tighten up. So going through those 3. And then through the 6, 11, 6, 11 combination here, kind of treating that just like one bead. Just like in peyote stitch, it's just my 1 up bead. Maybe we could call it the 3-drop peyote. And so there's one end that's finished. And so all that's left to do is to build sets of 11 delicate 11 in between each of these sections. But before I do that, since I haven't worked with this length before, I want to have one with 3, because you remember we just did 1 here on this other one. I want to set it up so I can show you how to do the 3. So I'm going to figure out where I want it to be. So lining up my 6s at the end. My other wire guardian will be here. If I want my charms to hang here, here, and there, then I'm going to want to go through only 2 of these before I start making my charms. So charm loops, sorry. So I'm picking up one of those repeats of 11, delicate 11, going through the next set of 3 6s, like my up bead, going through those. And then I'm gonna see one more, just like that. And I believe that is right where I want to be to start the first charm loop. I'm going to test that one more time. Yeah, so one here, one here, one here. So to do those loops, pick up 1 11, 1 delicate, and then 8 11s. After the 8 11s, pick up another delicate and another 11. And then you'll want to skip the 3 11s, 3 6s combo there, and another set of 3 11s, and then go through the next 6s. So just through there like that. So there's one loop done. I'm going to repeat that again. An 11, a delicate, 8 11s, delicate, and an 11. And then skipping this set, going through the next 6. And all those beads after it there, exiting from that third 6. All right. And then I'm just going to check my layout one more time, make sure I got that right. Yeah, I like it. So my loops are going to be here. And they don't have to be symmetrical. You can always just have them be organic looking. That's really great too. Okay, and there's that one. And again, I'm going to skip these three, and these 3, and go through this one. Okay. All right, and so moving it over here so it's easier for me to get those last combos here. There's 3, I'm going to need more 11s here. There you go. So 1, 1, and 1. There's a delicate in between 2 11s. And I'm going through the next 3. So I'm skipping these, going through the next 3 6s. Okay. I have 1 delicate left. Perfect. Okay. Oops, that's a small one there. And the same thing here. I'm going to go through the next 6s. And I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to need more delicates. I'm going through the beads today. Okay, so when you get to this last section here, go through the last 6. Through there. And I'm going to remove the stop bead now. That was the one we had on the tail thread when we started. To remove the stop bead, just pinch it and pull, and it'll come right off. And now I use this as a chance to kind of flatten out and make sure that not too tight and not too loose. So I'm actually pulling apart the tail thread and the working thread here, making it fit. And if it looks good, then go ahead and start adding. The next step is to add the wire guardian. So let's see, I'm going to find a few more of those floating here. I misplaced my scissors. There's only so many places that could have gone. Let's see here. Ah, got them. I'm going to borrow a wire guardian from over here. Okay, so adding the wire guardian, you want to pick up 1 11 and then 1 delicate and go through the wire guardian. One side. And then come down the other side. Don't forget that part like I did last time. Here we go. And then you want to pick up a delicate and then an 11. And then just go down through that size 6E bead. and they should sit side by side when you do that. So there's the other end. And so now to reinforce that connection, on this side we have the advantage of having a tail thread. So I only have to go through with either thread, or I can go through it with both threads and have a 3 reinforcement. Right now I've gone down through one side of that next set. I'm using places where I have stacks of 2 to make a turn. So going back up through here. All the way through the 6, through the 11 and the delicate. If it will let me go through all those at once, I'll go for it. Through the wire guardian. There we go. And I'm going to loop around the other side of that wire guardian and go through all those beads. So it let me go through the 6 right there. Right. I'm going to go through the next few beads to get down in the bracelet a little further away from this connection here. And I'm going to just weave in this side. Then we'll do the same with the tail. So right now I'm just traveling down. Okay, so now I'm out of the bottom of one of these 6s. It looks like I went through an 11, so I'm just going to continue through here. And now since I'm making a bracelet, if I wanted to, I could reinforce my loops. I didn't do that with this one. There's, when you're making the really long necklace, you can do one of these turns. And I think we did that on this first one to reinforce each of these. But since I'm doing a bracelet and I have tons of thread, I figured I could just go through it. And I might just decide to do that with this one. If it will reach, yeah, looks good. Okay. So to do that, all you'd want to do is just go through, just treat it like a single strand and just go through all of those. And then continue through the 6s. So lots of different ways to do the same thing. Kind of describes beading a little bit. Continuing through here. And I'm going to go through one more here. Okay, I'm out through the bottom of the 6s on the other side. And to weave in, I think what I'll do is I'll just loop through here and then go through one more and trim. So I'm going through that one side. Now I'm changing direction, going back the other way. I'm going to do that again. All right, through there. And one more time through this one. So you can see on a bracelet link that's easy to do. Your reinforcing is kind of the last step, but if this was the full length necklace, you could do the way the handout describes, which is doing this turn, which is exactly what I'm doing now, but doing that before heading back up the other side. All right, there's that side. I'm going to trim here. And now all I have left to deal with is the tail thread. And we saw, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're actually really tight on time. So what I'm going to do is just show you throwing 3 charms on here really quick. I felt like I had tons of time, and then I looked up and it was 3:55. So, well, basically what you do is you would add any charms you like by opening a jump ring and just placing them anywhere on the bracelet that you like in any order you like. And another really great thing about it is it's swappable. So you can change your mind later and pull a charm off and add a different one. So the sky's the limit on that. Is there anything anyone else wants to see? Oh, yes. I just saw Kirby's comment. Yes, for me, it is 3:55. I am in Seattle. I forget. Not everyone is with me in the same place.
Yes, Danielle, you're not getting too much sympathy because it's Wednesday morning in Melbourne.
Oh, it is Wednesday morning? I always get confused with the dates going with where the dateline is. I have to look that up every time.
Danielle, the class has been well understood, and people definitely understand the technique. So I think you probably have just enough time to encourage everyone to see us here Tuesday night next week.
Yeah, let me switch back to my other camera. Yeah, that felt like a time warp. The first one, I was like, whoa, that was really fast. And then, yeah. So let's see. I'm going to start with, we're going to do on November 3rd, we're doing a beaded candle holder. And let me turn it on so you guys can see the glow. It's a really easy project. It's beginner friendly, and you can make it in any color. My favorite thing to do is just grab a 6-0 mix. And a cool thing about these is this is exactly one tube. Give or take a bead or two, this is exactly one tube of size 6 mix. You'll be able to make the entire votive with that. So that's just an easy grab thread, grab needle, grab the beads, and you've got it. And the votives, they're called flameless votives, and they're at Michael's in the candle section. Then the next class, one of my favorites is flat chenille stitch. And flat chenille is easy. I know everyone says, oh, it's so hard. It's not. It is one of the most fun, and it's very intricate and versatile. You can turn one stitch into about 3 different variations of a design. And I'm going to go through that with you guys. That'll be a really fun class. And you have to come because it's on my birthday, so you got to come. And then the class after that is beaded garlands. We're going to be doing everything from tassel making to knotting with wax linen. It's going to be really organic and fun. This is another class where you'll use exactly 1 tube of beads. So this version has 4 in every, I called them kernels while I was making this because it looked like corn kernels to me, but each kernel of these has 4 strands going through it. But there's a 2-strand version, and the 2-strand version is just as long. I have one here actually. And it will end up being exactly 1 tube of beads to make this length. So depending what you want to do, or you could grab 2 tubes and make this length with 2 tubes and have 4 kernels going on that. So yeah, so fun little look there. Then I thought, well, we're gonna need some earrings to go with our bracelet. So these to me look like little wreaths, and they're stitched onto some hoops. And I used the owl charms from the Charmalongs brand, and it's got size 6, size 11, and size 8. So using every size of beads, and we'll do a multiple layered brick stitch for that. So relaxing and fun, personalizable, and that's everything. Anybody have any questions about the projects?
No, I think great. You're getting your usual end of class, wonderful comments. They love the class, and many thanks. So let's just hope we see everybody next Tuesday, because I think the beaded votives are the first time we're showing the beads being used for something other than jewelry.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see you guys for then. And I'm wishing you a great rest of your week. And on behalf of John Bead and Michaels, thank you for joining us tonight.